Hello, everyone. So I'd like to start today with a short lesson in human nature. So I'm sure you're probably familiar, or at least aware, of the Underground Railroad, the organization during the era when slavery still existed in the United States that helped people who escaped slavery from the southern states where there was slavery into the northern states where there wasn't slavery. Now, one of the really cool things about the Underground Railroad is that no one started it. There was no person or group of people who came together and organized everything. A whole bunch of people, each on their own of their own volition, just stepped up and did what they could. And that's really cool. So the rest of this video is going to be about Charles Turner Torrey, who is in fact the man who started the Underground Railroad. You see, some number of people, maybe not you and you yourself, but some number of people, hearing what I just said, were nodding along, saying, "Yep, yep, that's right." Not because they knew it to be true, because it was not, but because it sounded good to them. It sounded like the kind of thing that they would like to be true. And that's a very normal part of human nature. People are very likely to believe things that sound good to them, that they want to be true. And the only thing that's wrong with that is that there are people who will try very hard to take advantage of you using that. So keep your eyes open and your mind sharp, people. So Charles Turner Torrey, a very interesting guy who unfortunately a lot of his story is lost to history because a lot of history from the period was written by people who really did not like Charles Turner Torrey. Mr. Torrey started as a member of the abolitionist society led by William Lloyd Garrison. Now, Mr. Torrey and some number of his friends were very upset with Garrison and his leadership of the movement because they felt they needed to be more active in confronting and combating slavery. And they did have a point. To be fair to Mr. Garrison and his friends, for the first half century or so of the existence of the United States, they had been very successful in their program of gradual abolition through political means. But unfortunately, times had changed. The political and economic landscape of the country had changed very much, very quickly, and they fell behind. Now, Mr. Torrey and his friends tried to take leadership of the abolitionist society away from Mr. Garrison, but William Lloyd Garrison outplayed them politically, and they left. Mr. Torrey went south, um, the upper south, around Washington D.C., where he worked as a reporter and was actually arrested at one point for going to a convention of I forget what it was, convention of rich slave owners, and reporting on what they were saying and doing, which arresting a reporter for reporting is, well, was actually very typical for the slave power of the period. Now, this incident brought Mr. Torrey to the attention of one Thomas Smallwood, and yes, there is an obscene joke to be made there if you have the emotional maturity of a 5-year-old. Mr. Smallwood was a free black man living at the time in Washington, D.C. The two of them met, and together they started what became known as the Underground Railroad. Now, there are a lot of people who will say that Harriet Tubman was the person who brought out the most people from slavery to freedom on the Underground Railroad. She brought out, I think, 70 people through the Underground Railroad. And that's a really amazing accomplishment. Really cool. I don't mean to detract from her accomplishment in any way. But Torrey and Smallwood brought out together something over 400 people. So, yeah, that's an important detail to know, I think. Now, they what they would do is they'd put word around, gather together a group of people, then hire or beg or borrow or steal a wagon, load it full of escapees, and drive them north out of Washington, D.C. to Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, things didn't always go very well. Mr. Smallwood wrote his memoirs. He talked a lot about a lot of the problems that they had, primarily from other blacks who would try to take advantage of the situation to either gain money for themselves or power in some way. But Mr. Smallwood, I will definitely make a video about him at some point. At a certain point, things went very wrong, and Mr. Torrey and Mr. Smallwood both had to make a run for it. Mr. Smallwood escaped. Unfortunately, Mr. Torrey was caught and put in prison, where he took sick and died. Now, Mr. Torrey and his friends, who took a more active role in confronting and combating slavery, a lot of them died. And so when the history of the abolitionist movement was being written, it was largely being written by William Lloyd Garrison and his friends, who, as said previously, had political differences with Mr. Torrey and his friends. So unfortunately, a lot of this history, which is very interesting and very important, has been buried and lost forever. So now you know. Now you know at least a little bit, and I urge you to find out all you can, because, well, a lot of this information has been lost. A lot more is out there. It's publicly available, just a little hard to find. So anyway, sorry, it's late and I'm tired and I'm rambling a bit. I just want to get this thing done. So thank you for listening. I hope you have a lovely day, and be well. God bless.